Hey guys, thanks for watching Championships. Today we're going to be doing winners and losers of the draft. So, Connor, you want to start out with your first winner of the draft?
Yeah, so my first winner of the draft is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. This one might be a low hanging fruit, but he gets put in on a team where there's no true number one receiver. He can jump right in, work with Kyler. He's going to play the same role D Hop played in the past and probably get fed 130 to 150 targets. I think he breaks out year one and is a dominant force on the field.
All right, nice, nice. So my first winner is Keon Coleman, drafted by the Bills. Um, Kind of pretty much the same thing where he's gonna be the first target. Well, he might not be the first target, but he'll be the number one receiver eventually. Um, and I mean, he's got Josh Allen throwing to him. They lost all their other good receivers. They got Curtis Samuel. But he's really the only kind of outside receiver that they got. They got a bunch of slot receivers and Samuel and Shakir, and then um, a couple other guys too. But yeah, I think he'll be a good guy on the outside for them.
So my next winner is JJ McCarthy. I like McCarthy because he's walking into a really good offense. There's a good coach, pretty good offensive line. Obviously, he's got Jefferson, he's got Addison, Hawkinson when he gets healthy, and they have a couple running backs right now, and Aaron Jones and also Ty Chandler that are serviceable. So I think he's gonna hopefully get coached up. I don't see him having crazy passing volume year one, but I definitely think he can be more than what he was in college as a game manager and kind of progress slowly. Uh, Hopefully, he hits like Derek Carr level output this season.
Okay. My next winner is Drake May. Um, So I think that with the Patriots actually drafting and not doing what they would have done in the past and kind of I bet if they still had what's his name that they would have traded out of pick 3 and just gotten a haul of picks and they wouldn't have drafted a quarterback or at least one in the like one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks.
They still had
Um
McCorkle.
no, their old coach Bill Belichick.
Oh, I thought you meant the quarterback, not the coach.
No,
Okay.
no, no.
Okay.
So yeah, I feel like if he was still the head coach, that he would have traded out of pick 3, and he would have just got a haul of picks and not really drafted a top elite quarterback. Um,
Right.
so with
Sixth
them
round
draft,
Devin Leary is your quarterback out of Kentucky. He's the future.
yeah. But so with them drafting May, and then they also got um two receivers in Javon Baker and who was the other guy they drafted? I forget.
Jalen Polk out of Washington.
Polk, yeah. So with those two guys, those are actually pretty good guys that you could have drafted based on where they were in the draft. Um, so I feel like there's kind of a change in their like for the team, where like back in a few years ago or even last year, it was kind of like the old days, where like that's just how he coached. Bill, that's just how he coached. But now it's kind of like the new style, new school coaching, and I think that's going to be good for this Patriots team um, to be going forward because it hasn't been working ever since Brady left.
I got one problem with that take, and that's just they hired Alex Van Pelt as the offensive coordinator, and Van Pelt historically runs the most vanilla offense I've ever seen. And because of that, with the pieces they have in place, not the best playmakers, I totally expect them to be a shit show still, completely. Just a dumpster
You
fire.
think so? Wasn't he?
Absolutely.
Wasn't he like the quarterbacks coach or something for Aaron Rodgers on the Packers? And then wasn't he the
Um,
offensive coordinator for the
yes,
Browns
I think
too?
he was. Yeah, I think he was. But even then, I mean, I'm not going to put too much stock into that. It's not hard to coach A-Rod.
Yeah. So, well, I guess we'll see how it turns out. I think it's a win for May going there because he actually has receivers now. If they didn't draft any receivers, I think he would have just been thrown to the wolves and it just would have been terrible.
Absolutely. I agree with that. All right. So My last winner, I put Brock Bowers. That might be kind of a hot take.
Oh,
I think Bowers is gonna slot in immediately as, like, their slot receiver. You have Adams outside, you also have Jacoby Myers, and they
oh
don't
yeah,
really
because
have a
they lost Hunter.
Renfro, yeah.
What's his
Yeah,
name?
they cut
Right,
him.
Renfro.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no and he's been bad the last few years. I don't really know what happened to his game, but there's no reason why Bowers can't step in and split out, and you keep, Michael Mayer, in line, have him be a traditional Y tight end, and you just kinda run a little bit of a different offense, but tight ends are good for the intermediate passing game. You got 2 average quarterbacks, I would say. So, they're probably gonna help them out just from you know, just extending, the chains, keep the drives going, sort of thing, check down, stuff like that. You get a little bit creative with the two of them. They have different skill sets. So I like it. I like his outlook. I think this year he definitely can do a lot better than people think. I don't think he's going to be some crazy star this year or like have some historical season, but maybe ends up with 60 some catches, 700 yards, kind of like Dalton Kincaid did for the Bills.
All right, cool. And then my last winner, I also have a tight end. I got Ben Sinnett, however you say his name.
No one knows how
Um,
to say the name. I don't know.
but so I feel like with Logan Thomas retiring, and then Zach Ertz, he's I think 32, 33 now. Um, he kind of is in a good spot where he can learn from Ertz, who at one point he was a top three tight end in his prime. Um, so he can learn from him, but then also because he's older, because he's older, he's not going to play all the time. So that puts him in for some playing time and some catches. So I think that'll be good for him. And then obviously with everybody that they got, obviously the guy they just drafted, Jaden Daniels, and then Cliff Kingsbury being the offensive coordinator. I think that'll be helpful for him.
I am intrigued because he had one, a good draft capital, and two, he's an athletic freak.
Hmm.
So hopefully, gets the fundamentals down and kind of grows as a player. He might be a couple year project, but I think he's got a high ceiling.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so then on to the losers. Who's your first loser?
Hate to say this because I really like the player, but I put Blake Corum. I did predict the Rams
Um,
are going to target a running back. I didn't realize they were going to target the same exact running back as Kyron, just like Sean
yeah,
McVay said.
his stock's going down.
I like I like both of them as players. I think they're both skillful. I think they both are going to be real good real life players. The problem is they're going to kind of eat away at each other's output and their potential. So
Mhm.
Kyron came out when he was in his draft class as a good pass protector. He's been complete garbage in the pros, and I think that's part of the reason why they draft another back because they didn't have a true pass protector to keep Stafford from hurting
Mhm.
himself like he does every year somehow in some way, shape, or form. So
And I
Corum's
think
gonna come
I
in.
just saw that they signed uh the guy from the Eagles, Boston Scott,
So they have three
to a 1 year deal.
5'7" running backs.
Yep,
Collectively, it's gotta be the smallest backfield in the league, probably, if you figure
probably.
it out. I mean,
Yep.
Corum is pretty like he's heavier than the other ones, but they're all kind of
He's still
small.
short. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Corum's gonna come in, and originally I was thinking Kyron would be the third down back. I don't know if he will in all situations, depending on their formation and kind of what the play is. Corum may be sitting back there as more of a protector, where Kyron may catch some passes, but he didn't really catch a lot in general. And then Kyron really feasted on red zone opportunities, and Corum comes in as like the highest scoring, best red zone player in college history or something like that. So,
Mm,
of the upside of Kyron, I don't know where it comes from. And then I might be
mm,
overreacting to Corum's output because if I'm saying this, it seems like I'm super high on him. I'm still concerned because Kyron's been a good player for 2 years.
yeah. I mean, I feel like yeah, you're right. They're gonna just eat each other's numbers up. I mean, it's gonna be a good back. Like in general for their offense, but like you said, for fantasy, it's just you're not going to be able to trust one or the other week in and week out.
Right.
All right, so then my first loser, I got Joe Milton. So obviously with the Patriots drafting Drake May, hold on, hold on. So obviously it's a loss for him, but I feel like it would have been better if he would have been drafted by a team that had um a guy that's been in the league a couple years for him to be behind instead of so he's obviously a project, he's going to be a project, but if you're drafting if the guy that he's behind is in the same draft class, he's never going to see the field with that team, you know? So if he was drafted by the Jets, like that could have been nice for him because he would have been behind Aaron Rodgers 3 years or so, and then maybe he could have learned eventually taken over or something like that. But I mean, with the Patriots, it's just not good for him because he's never going to play for them. He might learn play for a different team eventually after his rookie contract, but yeah.
So May kind of is a project too. The Patriots seem like they just took two projects. They're hoping for the best. Obviously, May is in a class of his own in comparison to Milton, but
Yeah.
I also thought Milton's going to possibly move the tight end or something.
Oh, you think so?
He's going to be bad at everything, so it doesn't matter.
Could it be the next Tebow?
You mean in baseball?
Well, no, because remember he got a tryout for the Jags at tight
Yeah,
end.
I don't know. I see him being one of those one contract NFL third stringers, and he's probably washing cars or something like that in a couple of years.
Well, so see, that's exactly why I had him as a loser.
I, I think he was already an obvious loser. I don't think he needed to be here, but
Well, he
it's
is.
okay. It's okay. I'm gonna probably make a couple of people mad with this one too. I put Xavier. I think he announced himself as league it on the podium with the Panthers. I saw that somewhere, so hopefully that's right. I also didn't know he's number 24 according to this picture. That looks terrible. But he's walking into the Panthers, a terrible offense last year. Now they're bringing in some skill position players. They kind of build around Bryce. The line was still kind of, you know, below average as far as I'm aware. So they bring in Leggett as their first round pick, a receiver who couldn't separate at the Senior Bowl, who was a late breakout because he crashed the motorcycle, and I believe both his parents died or something like that. So some unfortunate things happened to him in college, but he didn't
Oh,
really
geez.
play until his fifth year. So, considering all that, they bring him into an offense. Everyone's saying he looks like AJ Brown on the field when he gets the ball in his hands and he runs some routes. He gets picked by DK Metcalf's old coach, Mike Evans' old coach, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's going to play X outside receiver." Kind of similar to what people are saying about Keon Coleman. It's not much different for Xavier Leggett, other than he's a lot faster as a top end speed athlete. They both pluck the ball out of the air.
Mhm.
They're both after the catch good in different ways. Okay. But he's not an outside receiver. He's a slot receiver. So now you got Deontay, who's played outside, undersized outside, but he's also good in the slot. They got Thielen, who's a slot. You got Mingo, who's a slot. And you got Leggett, who's a slot. Sounds a lot like the Bills.
I was gonna
It
say
sounds like
something
a
like the
mess.
Bills.
It's a mess. So anyway, I'm down on him because of that. I don't know how he fits in. I don't think he's a true outside receiver, at least right now. So as much as I like his accent, I don't have any faith on him for like this season.
All right, all right. So then my next loser is Malachi Corley. So this one again might be kind of obvious, but um, he's gonna be behind Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, and then because of Aaron Rodgers, he's gonna be behind Alan Lazard because he's buddies from him being in Green Bay. He always likes to have his guys. You know, he's not really a fan of having those young guys, those rookie guys, because he doesn't really trust them. So I feel like that's not going to be good for him because he's never going to get a chance to prove himself with Rodgers, and then by the time Rodgers retires, he's not going to have any production, and then they're probably going to cut him or not re-sign him, and he'll go to a different team.
The other part of that too is right now, from what he shows on film to us, he is kind of a right at the line of scrimmage yak guy. He's kind of a gadget guy. Mike Williams and Lazard both don't stay healthy. They're both the X. So combined, they'll play 6 games this year. Then you'll be back to having just Garrett Wilson and Malachi Corley outside and that Jason Brownlee guy. Corley is interesting because he seems like a good athlete and you see him play well, but he's playing against like middle schoolers. So I don't really know what to expect. I'm kind of skeptical. And the other thing too is I like Garrett Wilson in the slot. So I hope they don't try to use Corley in the slot exclusively because I think it takes away from a little bit of Garrett Wilson's flexibility as a player. And I don't
Hmm.
want that to happen.
Yeah.
So my last loser is Spencer Rattler. So Spencer Rattler got picked by the Saints, I think in the fifth or sixth. And some people are excited because Derek Carr isn't a great quarterback, but Derek Carr just got extended with guaranteed money. So I believe Carr, for the most likely, unless they eat a lot of money, is going to be in the team for the next 2 years. And Rattler went a little later than I thought he would. And so in 3 years from now, everyone's going to perceive him as a starter. I don't think that's going to happen because what benefit do the Saints have? Like, there's to put him as the starter in 3 years from now. At that point, they're still going to be a mediocre team. They're probably going to go after more of a top tier talent. I wouldn't waste another season with Rattler under center. I don't really think he has any upside other than being a decent backup.
Yeah. Which is probably why they drafted him later because they're like, oh, if he works out, great. But if not, then we didn't waste a third round pick on him.
I think he's a good backup, though. I think he's talented
Yeah.
enough to, be a solid backup. And it sounds like he got his character issues resolved. So if that's the case, you know, if he's a good teammate, he fits into that. The picture we picked here, he's wearing the C on his chest. So hopefully that's right.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. So then my last loser is Jonathan Brooks. So you kind of already hit it with Xavier Leggett. The Panthers are a mess on offense. Um, and their offensive line wasn't great last year. I don't think they really added too many pieces. Did they even draft an offensive lineman?
If they did, it was probably interior. I don't think so. I think
Yeah,
they
so
went
they didn't.
skill position, skill position, skill position with three of their first, how many picks they had because they took uh, Leggett, they took Brooks, and they took Jatavian Sanders in the third.
Yeah, so I don't even know if they really tried to improve their offensive line at all.
But
Um,
But hang on. They're just gonna feed him the ball because Miles Sanders is dust and Chuba Hubbard sucks.
well, he's gonna get the ball. They're gonna feed him the ball. He's gonna go right into a brick wall because there's not gonna be any holes for him to run through.
Yeah, but he's a volume play, man. He'll punch in 2 touchdowns next year, and he's still recovering from a knee injury. He's not gonna be 100% till week
Yeah,
9.
exactly. So that's not gonna help either. He's gonna be going in and fed to the wolves, and gonna have to be Superman and make cuts that he could possibly tear his ACL again. So,
Uh,
um,
yeah, I agree.
but and then I so I do think he'll eventually be the lead back between him, Sanders, and Chuba Hubbard. But I mean, like you were kind of saying with Corum, I mean, they're all three of them are going to get carries. So as far as for fantasy, like he is going to get some of his carries taken away from the other two. Just depending on like I'm sure they'll probably ride whoever has the hot hand, you know. That seems like what every NFL offense is doing now. They have 2 to 3 running backs and then they just give whoever is hot at the time, and then that could change from game to game. So yeah, I'm not I mean I like him as a player, but I just feel like with with him on the Panthers, it's just kind of a mess.
So I was kind of indifferent with his draft spot because the Panthers, to me, are obviously still in progress of rebuilding. He's recovering from his knee this year. I think this season would have been a wash, probably no matter what. He's so young. I think he's only 20 right now. He's going to recover from the injury, and then hopefully the Panthers get their stuff together and they start building an offensive line next year because they're going to realize Bryce is still running for his life. So you're going to kind of ruin him if you don't get him some pieces up there. I know they
Yeah.
drafted Iggy Ikwanu or something like that as a left tackle a couple years
Iguana.
ago. Yeah, I forgot his name exactly, but he was pretty good his rookie year. He wasn't that good last year. Um, so hopefully he kind of returns kind of somewhere in the middle, and then the other guys play average, and Bryce has enough to be successful. I do think they collectively have a lot of decent receivers. The problem
Mhm.
is I don't know how you align them all. And
Right.
then,
And he needs time to be able to throw to them for them to get
yep.
open.
Yeah, and I don't know. The big thing for a lot of running backs for me is like how good is the actual offense, which is why I made that point. I don't know if they're going to score. So if you're not really in potential to score, what upside does Brooks bring coming off a knee injury and a low scoring offense?
Mhm.
With
With two other backs that have been in the offense for at least a year.
right. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it. So I think he is a good long term buy, hypothetically, if
Mhm.
they can turn it around. I think he's a good volume play next. So 25, because I expect him to be the guy. And a worst case scenario at that point, then you're seeing inefficient volume play like a Najee Harris, but your points come in different ways. He's a better receiver than Najee, and he would have less
Mhm.
carries, I would think, just because of his stature. So,
So, all right. Well, so that was our winners and losers of the 2024 NFL Draft. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
peace.